Another episode of the Alite Show with special guest RDAPDAN. Thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me again, Tommy.
All right, so today's show is prison reform, and Dan, you're very familiar with that. So explain to everybody a little bit about what you do and how you try to help society.
Sure. So I'm a federal prison consultant. I myself I was sentenced to 42 months federal prison. I worked for a doctor that was overprescribing narcotics back in 2011. And I challenged my case, fought my case as long as I could before basically like the 27 defendants all started pleading out like within 3 or 4 weeks before trial. And I was the last one to take a plea deal. Everybody else had pled. So it was, kind of idiotic to try to keep going at that point. Took a plea deal. The judge ended up sentencing me to 42 months, sentenced my fiance to 13 months. And I was fortunate enough to do some research, found a program called RDAP, Residential Drug Abuse Program, that's within the federal prison system. And I qualified for it due to my marijuana addiction. And I was able to knock a year off of my sentence, but I learned a lot of tools along the way. And now we help people that are getting ready to go into the prison system with techniques, letters to the judge, family counseling, substance abuse, anything from stopping somebody from committing suicide because they think it's going to be the end of the world. It's mostly nonviolent first-time offenders, white-collar individuals that are dealing with us.
And John, you talk a lot about prison reform. And one thing that John says a lot, that you've said many times, is that it's ridiculous to throw all these people in prison for like little white-collar things or one little bag of dope when really they just need rehab.
Well, I did a book called Prison Rules, and what we deal with is families that are dealing with people that are going to jail, family members or themselves, how to handle themselves in jail. Me and Nick Christopher wrote the book about 3 years ago. So we're actually online of what you're doing. You're more active and in depth with, getting involved in some of the programs that are out there. I talk more about how psychologically the family can deal with it at home, without their father or mother there, how the inmate themselves can deal with it in the prison system. But what do you think about now that there's legalization of marijuana almost everywhere?
It's fantastic because I'm an avid marijuana smoker for one, so God bless that. But it's got to be pretty devastating for a guy sitting in prison right now on a life sentence for marijuana as he's watching, other people no longer getting in trouble. The sentencing guidelines have changed on how it's been dealt with. And a lot of the way and even the laws that have changed, it's not retroactive. So you still got guys sitting in prison life on marijuana because it hasn't been brought retroactive.
Oh, I didn't know that. They can't come back with an appeal and try to get some time back?
They're trying to do it through compassionate release. They're trying to kind of backdoor it, but there's nothing specifically in place that is going to take somebody on a life sentence for marijuana. And even still, people are still getting picked up for marijuana charges. I mean, you're not getting the guy driving with an ounce down the street, but guys with these 18-wheelers rolling, in and out of borders and stuff. It's got to be real ugly for somebody sitting in there right now dealing with that. And that's part of the advocating that we do is trying to bring awareness to. Not everybody in prison is a monster. Really good people make some mistakes, and unfortunately, the penalties don't really match the crime in a lot of the situations.
Well, that's one of the things I talked about is I was a criminal trying to make money off of the business, drugs of any type, right? Cocaine, marijuana, but I wasn't using. So guys like yourself aren't really criminals. You guys are just using and selling or getting involved in it because you want to. Feed your habit, and it's not financial. It's more because of the addiction and the mental.
There's actually a name for that. It's called, so you have what's called a primary addict and you have what's called a primary criminal. These are two different things that we learned in one of the classes. And so you would fall into the category of a primary criminal where you committed your crime for
profit,
yeah. Which puts you into a tougher category because when you take the primary addict, if you can control the addiction, typically the other shit kind of falls in place on its own. So that's why you'll see some of the primary criminal types, they become, in some senses, the repeat offenders because they get addicted to, the fame, they get addicted to the money, they get addicted to the power. And the guy, when he gets his drug addiction under control, like the gentleman you spoke to a few minutes on the phone
right.
that called you in, somebody like him, once he got his addiction under control, other things in his life fall in place. So you're a great testament to success because you've been out how long now?
Oh, I've been out about 10 years.
10 years. And are you no longer addicted to money? But you found a way to do it the right way.
I wouldn't say he's not addicted to money.
Yeah.
That's my point.
But I would say he might not be addicted to blowing heads off. You know.
Well, you know what? You learn to make, you know what, and that's one of the reasons I advocate for the young people out here, and I talk to the people you heard me talk on the phone on the break, is because I'm advocating for them to do the right thing in their life. And I'm also advocating that guys like me shouldn't get sentenced the same way as the guys of addiction, because you're not a criminal. You know, these guys who I just spoke to are people that have a substance abuse problem, and they should be treated differently. And we addressed this the other day in one of the shows. They should never be sentenced to the time they were. And I think 30% of the jail is addiction, not criminal. And I think that's one of the problems in the United States. They're not handling the psychological aspect of some of this that's going on.
Now, John, the guy that you were just talking to on the phone, what did you try to say to him to get a message to him to, like, do the right thing? I know he was asking you about a business and things like that. So when somebody calls you like that, what is your format to try to say, look, stay on this path? I did it. You can do it. What's your format when you answer that phone call?
Well, he seems to be on an okay path right now, but one of the things I told him, you continue with psychological treatment so you don't go back to your addiction. Stay away from things that will bring you back to addiction. That means don't go into a business with alcohol or CBD or things that will attract you back into something that you might have a weakness to. So I told him, pick something else, that whether it's a parking business or a supermarket, but stay out of something that's is going to hurt you possibly, because if you have that bad day and it's right at your fingertips, maybe you're gonna make that mistake.
Right, like a bar isn't a good idea for an alcoholic.
Right.
That's what I think. Now, when you deal with inmates, basically, do you see a lot of it addiction? I mean, a lot of it addiction with no psych help.
Not really. The majority of my clientele is white collar defendants. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of them do have cocaine addictions and addicted to prescriptions, but the crimes they committed are usually like a white collar tax fraud or like Jenna Ryan is one of our clients. Jenna Ryan's just got hit for the Capitol riots. She was sentenced to 60 days. Hers wasn't drug induced. Hers was, she was emotional about that. She wanted to go protest, and spectacles get made. We live in a really tough time right now where people are going to prison that shouldn't be going to prison. When what John just alluded to on substance abuse, that there's no real programs to deter. They got RDAP, the drug program, but to qualify for RDAP, you got to jump through a million fucking hoops before you even get to prison. And if you don't know these things ahead of time, you get to prison. Like, for example, you did Fed time, John?
Yeah. Well, I did state at Fed, but I did more Fed time.
So you remember the pre-sentence report that you have to do with
the PSI.
The PSI, okay. So during that interview process, which is before you're sentenced, before you go to prison, you might be in county jail, you take a plea deal or you go to trial and lose. U.S. Probation does a pre-sentence interview with you where it goes through your background, your substance abuse, your mental health. Most people, when they're asked the question, do you have a substance abuse problem, at that point are going to say no, because they think it's going to hurt them, it's going to cause them more problems, they're embarrassed, they're ashamed. Then they get to prison and they really do have an addiction, and they go to try to qualify for this program, like, you said you didn't have a substance abuse problem. Sorry, you're X'd out. In most cases, the attorney is the one that told them, don't mention anything about your substance abuse. We don't want to create any problems. So the bad advice that they received early on not only makes them do more time in prison, but it stops them from getting the assistance and the help that they needed to begin with.
More bad advice. And what do you think about that, the woman getting 60 days?
Well, I think that, they shut down Guantanamo Bay with terrorists. They freed them. They let them back out. And you have American citizens that weren't violent, despite what what this rhetoric is. They weren't violent. You didn't see anything being burnt down. They didn't have weapons on them. And the ones that did, I understand, but this is America. They shouldn't be in solitary confinements. They're not crimes against the government. They're people that love the government, and they should be treated a little different than they are. They haven't even seen judges, some of them. They haven't seen. They're not able to see family members, lawyers. And I can't believe that we're talking about America, and they're losing. It's not about the individual anymore. It's about the country and what other countries see about us and recognize us and say, America's losing what we were built on. and we're losing our justice system, and that's more important than anything. And I don't know why there's not more outcry, again, from our government, left and right. No matter where you take a stand, you can't treat American citizens as worse than you were treating terrorists.
And we're almost trying to just find the answer. I mean, do you think what's the answer to that?
The problem is mainstream media. He's referring to the J6, the individuals from January 6th of last year that are basically, they're in solitary confinement right now with no.
They put them in solitary confinement?
Yeah.
They don't have no computer time, no phone time, no family time, commissaries. The only thing they can get on commissary right now is basic hygiene, stamps, and that's about it. So they're in there being treated as if they were coming from a terrorist act. Now, the media is going to spin it the way they're already doing, and they're saying, well, everybody's saying, screaming out for the nonviolent offenders, but the acts that they did were violent because they, broke a camera or something. I mean, the media is controlling the entire process.
You can't have political persecution in this country on one side or the other. It's got to be fair like it used to be. It's not fair anymore, and it's the fault of the weak journalist with no backbone to say something and become a journalist, what they said they would swear to, that they would test to, just giving news. And they should be, because they have family members also. And if it goes this way on one thing, it'll go that way in the next. The problem is when you have Kenosha, whether you agree with it or not, when you see fires and no one is being locked out, when you see them kicking in and burning down police stations, when you see weapons and beatings and threats and nothing's being done and they're not being prosecuted because they're on the side of the government where it's leaning now, that's a problem, because then you don't have a fair justice system. It's a political justice system. And once that happens, and you lose the justice system in this country, all hell breaks loose. And that's why you're seeing so much crime all over the street, because you have prosecutors that are not prosecuting crimes that the police are arresting people for. And then you have other police officers that when they want to arrest somebody, they're getting persecuted. So you're losing everything this country was built on. And I think that both sides of the aisle, again, needs to wake up and say, hey, we're going to lose this country if we keep this up. And maybe that's the idea of the far left progressive, because to start a new foundation of a country, you need to break down the system completely. And I really believe that's what they're trying to do in a lot of ways. They're trying to break this system down.
How much of a difference have you seen in your line of work since the new administration has come in? I mean, how much different is it now than it was prior?
It's almost turned into like more of a reality show. With the whole Kennesaw, the Kyle Rittenhouses of the world wouldn't be there if the cops were able to do their job without fear of doing their job and then being sent to prison themselves. That's part of the problem. And even like the Jenna Ryan, she got found guilty of a misdemeanor. She's a nonviolent first-time offender of a misdemeanor going to federal prison, and the judge told her, you can pull up the transcripts. I have them. You can read the transcripts. After she was arrested, she did not think she was going to go to prison. She was defending herself on Twitter. Somebody said, you're going to jail. In her defense, now she made an asinine statement by saying, I'm not going to go to jail. I'm a white woman with blonde hair and a good job. And the judge told her word for word, because of your outreaching in social media, I'm going to make an example out of you, basically telling her, fuck you and your free speech. You don't have free speech to say what you want to say in the heat of, I mean, how many of us have said something in the heat of the moment?
Right. Well, you have Kenosha. Let's go back to Kenosha, and I brought it up the other day, is the prosecutor said that a skateboard's not a weapon. A skateboard has metal on it, has wood on it, and I guarantee if I beat him over the head with it, I can kill him with it. So that's the most ridiculous statement I ever heard of from a prosecutor ever, that the skateboard isn't dangerous. So if it's not dangerous, let's hit him over the head with it and see how it feels. So these are political statements, not government law-abiding statements. So if you're going to follow the letter of the law, if someone's attacking somebody, or the letter of law, especially in Kenosha, is a self-defense. So when someone's attacking you with kicking you in the face and hitting you with a skateboard, and how do you know where that was going to go? None of us know. We don't know if he would have lost his gun, would he have been killed, would he have been beat, would he have been dragged. But we saw what we saw. It was violent in Kenosha. They were burning things down. They were attacking National Guard. They were attacking police stations. They were attacking everything. None of them, there was no arrest what was done on January 6th. The January 6th is just a political statement. They're persecuting people, not by the actions, because a lot of those police officers that were surrounded the Washington police, they let them into the Capitol. Now, anybody that can see can obviously see what's going on, but you can't pick and choose politically again, because now we become, in Argentina when you have political persecutions of their citizens, or they're using Garland, who's attacking, and using domestic terrorist laws against our own citizens, and lied on the stand. Now, this is our Attorney General that gets up there, lies, and they came out with it again that he is using it, and people like. I'm watching some of these journalists, and they're saying, well, I believe if people are threatening other people, first of all, it's not, why are the FBI involved? This is a local police situation. Even if somebody did threaten somebody, it's a terroristic threat. It's not an FBI, or the Attorney General isn't supposed to be involved in this. So they're overstepping their bounds. They know they're overstepping their bounds, and they're bringing this country close to communism and Marxism, like I always say. It's a step further.
Have you seen any reform at all?
So we got the First Step Act. I mean, we've seen reform under President Trump, and everyone will say, well, he only did it because of votes and this and that. It doesn't matter. There's been more pardons and people released from prison under the Trump administration, and this isn't a right or left thing, than any other president put together has ever released. So we have seen prison reform. The bill is there. The First Step Act isn't just for the feds. The First Step Act it put a new policy in place for every 30 days that an inmate successfully programs, they can receive up to 15 days towards a pre-release program like halfway house or home confinement. But what's not explained in that bill is in order for you to get 30 days credit, it has to be based on an 8-hour work day of a 30-hour work week. Now, we all know if anybody's been to prison, most jobs are not 30 hours a week. You've got some guys that work 2 or 3 days a week. Unicor, you might, have it every other day.
They ended the Unicor.
They ended Unicor in a lot of places. So in order to accumulate that time is almost impossible. So it looks great on a piece of paper, but in the reality, nobody's.
So it's like you always say, they're saying all these things, but then in the fine print, it's like, well, here's the catch.
Yep.
Well, I said it the other day. I mean, Obama, go back to Obama era. And again, it's not a left or right thing. It's an American thing. Obama had the chance to sign into effect the universities and colleges for Black America. He didn't do it. President Trump did. Whether you like the guy, if you left it, he did what he did. He signed it, and he signed it for 10 years. They don't have to come back every year and ask for funding. He also signed in for pro-choice through Tim Scott, so pro-choice of education. These are acts that are for Americans. It has nothing to do with but this is an American way. And if education, I keep saying the same thing, is the way to reform peace and moving forward for young guys and young people not to go into the prison system. And if they do go into the prison system, the doors are open for them to have a different way of life. If you stagnate this, you're asking for crime. And when they make political stance against a group, economic group, or based on race, it's a problem. It's not America.
In the court system, do you see a lot of division left and right?
The people that are left, when you really start asking them questions, and I heard in one of your earlier interviews, I heard somebody say the same thing. When you really start asking them questions about what's important to them, the whole left and right kind of leaves because they don't really understand what they're talking about, but they start leaning towards what makes more sense, which in today's day, it's not a left or right thing, just happens to be right now. It's kind of the right thing to do, going right. And almost everybody's leaning towards the right because prison reform, prison policy, it's Republicans are the ones that are kind of backstanding it. And we're asking, the left is pushing for all of this chaos right now. And what they don't realize what they're doing is they're only hurting themselves in the long run, because this is going to affect them when they're the one on the other end of the stick, where they're going to be the ones that are getting persecuted in a public media sense versus what's actually legal or illegal. Kyle Rittenhouse. Once you negate.
John was talking about Kyle Rittenhouse yesterday.
Yeah, and when you negate everything that they've tried to say, like he didn't cross the border with a gun. The gun was already here. The gun wasn't his. The gun was purchased by somebody else. And when you break down these facts, the only thing they're going to say to you is like, well, why was he there? Why was he there? Because he had a fucking right to be there. Why was the other guy there? Why were they burning down the building?
Well,
why isn't that the question?
They said he was never in Kenosha, and he was, his father lived there, and he was
20 miles away.
He was a lifeguard at one time in Kenosha. So, again, he's allowed to be there, and you're allowed to defend yourself. It doesn't really matter why he was there. You're right. If somebody's attacking me and I'm in a supermarket and they attack me and I defend myself, it doesn't matter why I was there. I could even just walk in there because I was bored and I just wanted to walk around the aisles. What does it have to do if a crime is being committed against me? So, the guys that were attacking him, one of them was domestically, I believe he hit his grandmother, he was arrested, or his mother. The other guy was a pedophile, convicted. So these aren't innocent guys. These guys are criminals, they're violent, and what are they doing there? They're only there for violence. That's why they're there. So they're not talking about why these guys are there in the first place and why are they getting physical against somebody else. Now, we've seen him kick the guy. We've seen him kick Kyle. We've seen him hit him with a skateboard. We've seen them chasing him. He was running away. When someone's coming after you, if he stood his ground and didn't move and they came after him, he's allowed to defend himself because the act of them coming forward to attack him. So when these prosecutors first of all, these prosecutors were horrible.
So because he was running, that changes the way the
No, it doesn't change it. I'm saying he's running. They see him chasing him. He's allowed to stop and stand his ground. He didn't have to keep running. They're aggressive against him. They're making the motion and the physical attempt to hurt him. And then you have a prosecutor. Both prosecutors were terrible. They shouldn't be prosecuting a parking ticket. And then you have one prosecutor pointed an AK-47
right.
around the court.
Yeah.
He should have been locked up just for that. If I was the judge, I would have threw him out of the courtroom. I mean, so these guys were so bad. And, and again, as a country, we should say, where are we going when people can get attacked and we're trying to prosecute them? I mean, it's a real problem that they're prosecuting a young 17-year-old kid, and you have what I said the other day, dummies like LeBron James that talk against our police department. So LeBron, next time somebody's getting shot in Kenosha or somebody's attacked, we'll call you. We won't call the police. I said, let's see what you do for us, Superman. I mean, this guy is a clown. And when you got guys like him talking, or Joy from The View that are uneducated, they really don't even know what they're talking about. And they're making statements while they're sitting behind their podiums, filthy rich. And they like this racial division. And this is what aggravates me about them more. They keep trying to divide this country. Joy, if you think that there's racial division, then give up your seat on The View and give it to somebody that's Hispanic or black, because you're very wealthy. So I think you had enough money by now. Give it to somebody else. Give them a chance to make that money. They're hypocritical in everything they say. You're talking about a 17-year-old child. If you don't know this, you're not a lawyer. You're not involved with the court case. Mind your business unless you really know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the problem is that people like LeBron James have such a mass following of younger youth, and these are people that are getting behind it. And now with what goes on in the end of this trial with Rittenhouse, the part of the system is afraid if they do completely let him go, extremist groups from the left side have already come out and said that they're going to be uncivil arrest in the streets if he is not found guilty. So
now they're threatening protest.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
No, they're threatening violence.
Go back to LeBron. He has a mass of young youth. So he's the one that should be talking about why you're a spokesman for the CCP that are slave driving people in their country. Why are you speaking up for them? I thought you were against slavery. Why are you not speaking up for the Muslims, the young Muslims that are being slaved, millions of them, close to 2 million actually, in and out of their education camps, which they're being beaten, tortured.
It's unbelievable.
And that this guy is actually not speaking up because he makes money there. I mean, this is not, we're not saying anything that isn't
in print.
Inaccurate.
Yeah.
You're a guy that says you're against all this, then why is that okay? Because you're making money there? I mean, why don't you tell these young kids what's going on? Why are you okay with making money off of slavery?
Hello, everybody. This episode of The Alite Show
is sponsored by Fume. It's time to quit smoking naturally. Fume makes the gap between nicotine free easier with a natural inhaler that curbs cravings and supports recovery.
No smoke, no vape, and no harmful chemicals. Flavorful, plant-packed cores to reduce cravings and support recovery. Enjoyable and comfortable, because who said quitting had to suck?
Quit smoking today with Fume. That's F-U-M. That's www.breathefume.com/elite and use code ELITE.
And you know, John, I was stuck smoking vapes forever. I actually had a vape shop in the past, so I was fully addicted.
Hey, Tommy. So family members of mine have used Fume, F-U-M, and I'm a believer in the product. I've seen it successful with my family members. Go to the website, www.breathefume.com/elite. I'm a believer. Go get your quit.
And you know, John.
And how does it, where does it stop? Where does it end? Just like right now where we finally pulled out of the war, right? We've got all these people that are still there. Nothing has really been accomplished. It's going right back to the regime that had it. And I think we knew this going into it, and we were so gung-ho about a narrative and re-elections and political points that we pushed in a direction, and we had sheep just blindly follow because it sounded great. Let's go get these son of they. Now we've got the same situation where we're creating this uproar of it's the United States against the United States, but it doesn't end with any like what's the end game?
John, that is kind of how it is. It's like the United States versus the United States.
Well, the United States wants to divide the United States, and guys like LeBron help divide it in the division. So if LeBron wants to open his mouth and you want to get political, then get political. Ask him why $450,000 is coming into illegal immigrants that are coming in and not to our black community.
Well, no, he's too much of a baby to do that because he'll say one thing and then he runs off the Instagram or whatever it is.
There's communities of my friends and their families and families of families where we grow up that need money, and you send it to Iran, billions. So where is LeBron when I say why isn't this money going into black and brown and white communities that economically just don't have the money of living on the street or our vets, like I always say? Why is it going into our education? So instead of sending $1 billion over there, so since LeBron wants to be an advocate, then advocate and understand what you're advocating for.
And when you're fighting for these inmates, how much does that frustrate you just to see the ridiculousness, basically, of what's going on and how it's progressing almost weekly?
It's disgusting because, the way we grow up as what reality is, good people have good things happen to them. Bad people have bad things happen to them. So when you have a good person make a mistake, and committed a crime, yes, but it wasn't a crime of passion. It wasn't a crime of violence. They didn't go out and rape. They didn't go out, they fucked up their taxes, whatever it might be. They think that the world is going to correct itself, and that person really doesn't deserve to go to prison. Or maybe I'm not the one to make that judgment, but we throw everybody in there. And are we allowed to say the word false flags on here? Is that a no-no word? Okay. So like the $450,000 that he's referring to, first off, that's never going to happen. They've already, behind the scenes, they've already said no one's going to get this money, but the false flag of it, the perpetuation that it creates, where that's all people are focusing on now, right and left. Oh, they're going to get this. We don't want them to get this. The real focus is on where did this really start? Who created, who's the puppet masters behind the scene here? Because we're focused on so many things that sound horrible or sound fantastic, but most of it's never going to come to light. It's just going to stay in this nasty melting pot of the division, which has already happened. It's already been divided.
But the thing is, if the false flag of it happening or not is really not important, right? Because it doesn't matter why they said it. The problem is every country that wants to come into this country believes it.
Right.
So now you're going to get more immigrants coming here thinking they're gonna get the lottery. They're gonna get 450.
Yeah.
It's not an equal justice system, and we all know this. I said this the other day. When you're not arresting and locking up all our government officials that are inside trading and doing different things, or Hunter Biden, because he's Joe Biden's son, it's okay to break the law, or Hunter Biden's brother, who can start a false cancer foundation and not a dollar go to cancer, and they don't get arrested for it. Us as Americans, because we're guys that were in prison. And I'm the guy that says I deserve to go to prison when I did, because I was doing the wrong thing. But these people are allowed to do anything that's wrong, and then you got a regular citizen that you want to put in jail. It's not an equal justice system. They should never be in jail on some of these things. They're not criminals, and I speak up for them because they're not criminals. And the criminals I do know that don't deserve to stay there for the rest of their lives. There's got to be a way to give these people a second chance at life if they do the right thing.
There's got to be a happy medium.
And well, the idea now from this extreme thinking and political thinking is you're putting in whether this woman said the dumb comment that she did say. You can't just throw them in jail because you don't like what you said. It's abuse of power. If she doesn't deserve to be in jail by the letter of the law, don't put her in prison. You want to make her do community service because she did something stupid, because things happen in prison, even if you're not in a super
Like
max.
a penitentiary.
You know, you could be in a soft jail, but people get depressed. They kill themselves. This happens all the time.
And they kill themselves before they go.
Yeah, before they go.
Fear of.
Because they're fear of what they watch in the movies. They think it's so
Shawshank
devastating.
Redemption.
Yeah. So again, you're abusing your power, abusing when you go after parents. I don't have to say anything more than this. And when the media is okay with this, it's a serious problem in America and our justice system.
You're not lying about that. Well, RDAPDAN, thank you very much for being a guest with us.
Thanks, Dan.
John Alite, as always. Produced by Mscs Media, and today is Prison Blues.
Yeah, that's a subject that anybody that's been down before, whether it's county, whether it's state, federal, and especially your first time you're away for a holiday, and you're not a guy that's been in and out of jail, you don't really know what to expect. So guys get very depressed during the holidays.
What's it like for guys when they're in there and they have girlfriends, wives, and, it's Christmas. They got kids. They got everything else. I mean, how tough is that?
Guys that have, the ones that are fortunate to have good girlfriends and good wives, the girls and the wives, they answer the telephone at night on the weekends, tell them they love them, they send cards, and then the majority don't have good wives and good girlfriends because most people know, just like street guys, they're around for the ride. When everything's good, everybody loves you. When you're buying cars and you're traveling and you're buying houses and, you're vacationing and you're drinking champagne, of course they're around. So when you're in a hole and you're in jails and you can't reach out and you can't buy them that beautiful diamond or that dress, or the girl doesn't have that brand new car, that Mercedes, and they forget about the man. They find the next one that can do those things for them, just like guys do to their friends. Guys to guys, gangsters to gangsters. They walk away and they're not loyal to them. They don't help their family. They don't send money. They don't write a letter. And that's just life.
They disappear. That's
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
Now, you've done 18 years in total,
Yeah.
right? Now, there's been times when you've had girlfriends or had a girlfriend, wife, and then didn't. What would you say was easier for you during the holidays? Having someone or just not having anybody at all?
The guys that say they're lucky because they don't know any better and they don't have anybody and they go to jail and they don't stress on that. But, guys that are married and guys that have kids and, it's sad to be there. I mean, you overcome it and, guys will say, well, it doesn't bother me. I think that's a lie. Of course it bothers you. You don't have your daughter on your lap. You don't have your sons on your neck. You're not there early in the morning when you open a Christmas present. And, you're calling up and you say Merry Christmas. And the kids, are crying when they're younger. When they're older, they're like, hey, Dad, miss you. And, I'm sorry. They try to make it like, they're not doing much, so you're not sad. And, it's a terrible feeling, obviously, to be confined when the people you love are at home celebrating and having Christmas dinner with all the family members and friends and family.
I mean, you are sitting there with a bunch of guys in there with people you don't want to be around, and you can't dress up like Santa Claus. You can't watch football on Thanksgiving. Out of all the holidays, what do you think is the toughest one to get through? Out of those 18 years, what's the toughest one to get through?
I mean,
pretend you don't have any kids and you have no girl. It's just you.
Okay, so it's got to be Christmas or New Year's, but I'm going to tell you something funny. When I'm in jail, because I was always in and out, and I had some rough ones, but I love Christmas. So even now, I'm always listening to Christmas music right away. So, in jail, we had the radios with the headphones, right? And then people that are in jail know this. We take the toilet paper off, and we take the toilet paper roll, and we put it in between the headphones, and we plug holes in it.
To make it louder.
Yeah, it's your loudspeaker. And I would play Christmas music all day in the hall, and I'd leave it like that, and guys would get mad at me. Turn it down, take it off, do this, do that. And I'm like, what's wrong with you guys?
But was it easier with a girl or without a girl?
Man, the thing is, if you don't have a girl or anybody, you're lonely, right? You got nobody to call, nobody to say I love you, nobody to say I miss you, I'm thinking of you, And then, and you'll say to yourself, well, the guys that don't trust their woman, they'll say it's easier because they're saying, I ain't got to worry that she's cheating. I ain't got to worry about that she's celebrating, drinking champagne in a nightclub with some other guy. So it depends on your mindset, as much as, my son's mother wasn't a runaround. So I didn't have to worry about that with her. You get mad, you have your dump fights. You're still always a little jealous when you're in jail. But, that's just life. But I would say, it's easier knowing that there's people out there that love you and care about you and send you a card or a letter, or you answer the phone when you call. It's funny, years ago, people that were in jail years ago, and for the people that are in jail now, if they hear this, we used to get locked down, at night and get back out at 10 o'clock. I think it was around 10. After count, they'd let us back out. And I was in McKean at the time. And I think they let us out at 10 or 12 to 2. I can't remember, but it was late night. And guys used to run for the telephone. And it was 4 telephones. So, you split them up by ethnic groups. The black phone, the Spanish phone, the white phone, everybody's phone, whatever. And everybody run for the phone. They'd be by their cell door waiting for it to get cracked, and they'd run for downstairs for the phone. And I used to look at some of the guys, and they go, why don't you run a phone? I go, man, let them run. See that long line? That'll disappear in 10 minutes. And he said, a young guy or somebody who's never been down, they'll say, why? I said, because all those guys that are running, the girls don't answer the phone. They're out partying. They'll tell them they fell asleep. And the next morning, those same guys are up early in the morning calling their houses, screaming at the girlfriend and wife. Why didn't you answer the effing phone yesterday? And the girl would say, the baby was asleep. I didn't want to wake up. I put the phone on silent.
Yeah, right.
Or, these are crazy. Like, I went to bed early. I didn't feel good. But the truth is, they're all going to nightclubs. They're all going out. I mean, life goes on. That's just the way it is. Life continues.
See, for me, I don't know what would be worse, because I would want that person there to call, but I wouldn't want to be worrying. Even if she was the best girl in the world, where I wouldn't even think of her cheating on me, I just wouldn't want that while I'm not there. If I don't have anybody, there's nobody to be there for. But then, again, if I'm that guy that acts like I don't want anybody there, like the guy that goes to get the mail and there's no mail for him, but you really want them to call your name type thing. So I think it's just I would have to say, thinking about it, that it would be a front to act like you don't want somebody there on the holiday, but you tell yourself that you don't when they're not answering, because you say, well, I don't have anything to worry about. And then it's just another day.
I'll tell you a story. 1996, I'm in Fairton. There's 2 brothers, right? One was a gangster. The other brother was a legitimate guy. Somehow, I don't remember exactly how he said he was tricked into it, I believe. He said my brother was going to do a robbery. He asked me to take him. I didn't know he was going to rob the bank. He robbed the bank. And the brother that was legitimate took him, and he got shot, and he ended up in a wheelchair. And his wife, he just got married. His wife was a legitimate, successful woman that traveled. I don't remember if she was in pharmaceuticals. She was in something, a good-looking woman. And he used to ride those phones. Now, not a insult to injury, the guy's, in a wheelchair. He's not going to be able to walk anymore. So he goes to prison, and he had, I believe he only had about a 7 or 8 year sentence to do. And his brother was straight gangster. He didn't ride phones. He didn't do anything. But the brother was always lining up for that phone. And he got friendly with me. And I used to talk to him all the time. And I tell him, listen, you better stop riding that phone. He had no children. And I go, listen, she'll be gone in 6 to 8 months. And he goes, what do you mean? I says, it's the 8th month effect. And he says, what's the 8th month effect? I says, everybody in here knows what the 8th month effect is.
What's it called, the 8th month effect?
Effect.
Oh,
meaning
8 month effect.
Effect.
Okay.
What'll take place in 8 months, around 8 months, we just use
give or take.
Yeah, we use that number, is she's going to be gone.
Yeah.
So he would ride the phone. And in those days, you didn't have to have your numbers because you have to have a list of numbers where you can call. And his wife was going to California, or she had the cell phone and she transferred. I don't remember exactly how that worked, but she went to California. This part I do remember. Yeah. And I kept telling him, stop chasing her. You got no kids with her. You're just newly married. She's successful. She's not going to stick around. You got 8 years. She's going to go. Oh, you don't know her, blah, blah, blah. He's saying, I said, okay. And he goes to the phone one day and he calls. She was in California, and somehow, whatever way it went from her phone to the room, to the hotel room, because it went to the operator first. I just don't remember how exactly it went. But he called, and a guy answered the phone. Oh, man. And he said, who is this? And it was, whatever time it was. Yeah. Because in California it was earlier.
Yeah, 3 hours difference.
Yeah. So we called, say it was 10 in the morning. It's 7 there. Yeah. So he's in bed with her.
So he's still in bed with her.
Oh, my God. He was banging the phone. He was crying. I felt bad for the guy. I felt terrible. And I said to him, listen, he just got in. He was only in there about a year. I said, listen, it's better off it happened now. I said, you're going to go home. I said, she would have cheated on you somewhere else. You would have got divorced anyway. While you're here and you're fresh, you got a couple more years to do, another 5-6 years. You might as well get it out of your system. I know it's not easy. And he was so upset. And then I go talk to his brother, and I go upstairs, and his brother's like a hard guy. And he's like, F my brother. He says he's such a punk. And I go, come on, man, he's a regular. He goes, no, don't buy his crap, because he had a different end of the story of it. They were close.
Yeah.
But, behind his brother's
like brotherly love type.
Yeah. They were definitely close. But the idea he's telling the story was funny because you feel bad for the guy. It's a wake-up call because he's a regular guy, but they actually don't understand. And, what's going to happen. And we already know because we've been through it. We suffered through a lot of things, and we know everything. But the thing is, certain guys don't get past it. Like, I love Christmas music, so I didn't get that sad. And then in jail, we have parties. I mean, they're not like at home, but it helps, helps you lick the wound a little bit because, we got to get together. We all cook together. We play music and, whatever we could do to make it easier.
You do the best you can with it.
Yeah, but, holidays are sad. Your kid's birthday, it's sad. They'll go to an event, and everybody's going and your whole family's going and they throw a party somewhere. Or they have cookouts or whatever you want to call barbecues. It depends on where you're from, what they use, what terminology. And, they're all, passing the phone, hey, hi, and you're eating your heart out, but at the same time, you're glad they're okay. But it's not an easy thing. That's some of the, what I'm always talking about, guys, when they're getting locked up, they're only talking about physical, pain. And I'm always talking about emotional pain because emotional pain is 100 times worse than physical pain.
Now, like you were saying with the guy that the 8-year thing didn't go so good, he got 8 years, but, within a year he was already done for. Out of all the 18 years you've done, what was the longest stretch at once that you did?
Just this last one. I was in Brazil in penitentiary for almost 3 years. Well, 2 years, 8 months, I believe.
Or in the U.S.?
And then it was 10 years. 10 years on this one.
So what percentage would you say relationships last in prison?
It's very...
At an age 50 and under, because the older people, maybe they do because they're already halfway out. But.
No, I listen, again, if you're going to go to jail and you're going to be a criminal, it's going to strain the hell out of your relationship in the best relationships. Because unless you're really loaded up with money and your significant other, girl or guy, depending on who's in jail, has nothing better to do with their life, they're going out. They're not stopping anything for you. They're going to go to parties. They're going to go to Christmas parties. They're going to go to the beach. They're going to travel. They're going to go to weddings. They're going to do everything they did without you anyway. And when you're in jail, you don't want to hear about that. You want to hear that they're sad that you're there and they're not going to go to all these parties. They're not going to go to the beach. They're not going to travel. They're not going to go. But that's not the case because life moves on. So even in the best situations, and then you got the situations where people are mad because they're not living like they used to. And then they start saying, well, you did this to me. They're making excuses to justify their behavior. Oh, you didn't buy me this, or you never really gave me this, because they forget about all the dinners and all the traveling and all the money you spent on them. So, everybody has a way to justify themselves. And they say, well, the next thing is, girls say, well, you did it to yourself, bitch.
That's what they say.
Yeah, because, nobody wants to, accept the responsibility that they were there for good times only. And for the most part, that's what they are there for.
Now, were you in the USA prisons when they went to the national menu?
I don't know what year they went to the national menu.
I think
I didn't go to the chow hall that often, to be honest with you. No, not at all. Very rarely. I cooked myself with guys, and I paid.
But didn't they cook special meals for holidays?
Yeah, you get some bullshit. They give us packages like for Christmas and everything. I mean, it's nonsense, garbage. Listen, I think they pay $1.16 a meal or something. I get $1.16. My cat would beat me up if I get that kind of
Well, I know before the national menu thing, every prison, every federal prison, they could make whatever they wanted. So, friends that I know, it was good.
Well, we did too, whether they knew it or not. I told us before that we used to steal all the guards and the brass's food. We'd go, right before the holidays, we'd get inmates, to be whatever, a group of us, and we'd steal their food and give them our food. So we'd eat a lot of their food on a lot of holidays.
Well, they went to the national menu now. You don't want that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because now it's all the same. So every federal prison serves the same food.
Really?
Yeah, all 3 meals.
A lot of time, you got some, good things that they do now. They let some of these jails, private and regular institutes, order out to like Pizza Hut and, Philly steak and cheese steak. Yeah. They let them order once a week. And, listen, it's a good, if you.
In federal prison?
In state. I don't know if the feds are doing that. The state's doing it. But, and also some states you have conjugal visits. The feds, you don't have it. But, the funny thing is the feds regulate the state. So if that makes sense to you, I don't know how. But I still advocate for all this. They should have whatever way it would work, whether, because they use the, the excuse that they don't let conjugal visits because they're worried about people getting impregnated and this and that. I mean, you can do things to stop that, as if that's what they're worried about. You force them to take contraceptives, the woman or something. You're not forcing them. If you want the visit, you have to abide by this. Eat the pill before you go on a visit. They sit there like they watch everything else. Let the girl take the pill and go in so she can't get pregnant. There's these pills now that they could take before so they don't get pregnant. But I still believe they got to treat men and women like humans when they're incarcerated. So I'm a big advocate of that because the more you treat them like a human being, when they come back out, they won't have that anger. And hopefully they change their lives. There's a lot of people, if you give them that chance, they'll change their lives. There's a lot that revolving door, and that's why I always go back to, I don't want to get off subject of second chance programs and jobs and some of the stuff that you can't get a job if you're a felon is hopefully you'll start changing in a better direction.
Now have you been in a penitentiary?
Yeah. In Brazil, I was all over, the worst penitentiaries around.
But I mean here in the U.S.
United States, I was in medium high. I was in McKean. I was in Fairton,
Could you tell a difference in the holiday atmosphere between the medium, the low? I assume you were never in a camp.
Listen, even a camp, and I've never been in a camp, but even a camp it's not the walls, it's not the gates, it's freedom. You can't go beyond that point. So, you can paint the walls all you want. Some of these federal prisons, you walk in and say, wow, it looks pretty nice in here. It can look as nice as you want. They all got walls and gates and barbed wire. The idea is you can't go home and hug your kid. You can't go home and love your wife or your girlfriend. So, incarceration is separation. Separation is the emotional pain. If somebody asked you, would you rather get beat up by a couple of guys, or would you rather take the emotional pain of not seeing anybody?
I'd rather get beat up.
Anybody will get beat up. Whether you get beat up a little bit or bad and you recover in 2 days, 1 day, an hour, or 2 weeks, it's over. The emotional pain scars you for who knows how long. So, when it's the holiday blues and people get mad because you're listening to music, you feel bad for them because they can't get past the pain. You don't really think about it when you're in there. You're saying, screw him or whatever you're saying. But then when you're out of that situation, you got to feel bad. Guys are in there like now it's holiday season, Thanksgiving. I have a son that's in prison, and it's I hate dealing with it because I can't help him. He's got to help himself. He does. You know, he does good time, how we say good time. He does do good time and all that, but still, I'm the father. It kills me inside to know my son's inside.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, thank you. And, there's a lot of inmates who have kids in there, and there's a lot of inmates that are just inmates and don't have kids in there or out here. And, I know what they're all going through. It depends on how you shield it and how you get through it and how you act like it doesn't bother you as much. But, of course, it bothers you. Your freedom is taken away from you. That's a commodity that you don't want to give up. And that's why I'm such an advocate and so strongly talking against doing anything illegal. Not that, I'm saying, well, it's, you can't make some good money and try to live well. And I'm just saying it's just not worth your life.
And when you, like your stretches, like in Brazil, the 10 years in the United States, plus the violations and this and that, being that Christmas is your favorite holiday, when you got out, what did you do on Christmas, the first Christmas that you had after probably Brazil? That seemed like the worst one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, one thing is like anything else. When you're accustomed to going to jail like I was, like I did a little bit, then I got out. I did another little bit, then I did 3.5 years, then I got out, then I went back. You start getting used to it. It's a rhythm, whether you like it or not, right? But the guy that never was in, and he goes, it's devastating, especially white-collar guys that aren't used to the street, and they were never thinking criminally like we did, because we went out every day and committed crimes to be financially successful, right? And we knew what we were doing. These guys actually lie to themselves. They never did anything. If they get a DUI and go to jail for 48 hours, 20 minutes, it's devastating. So I can only imagine what they go through. But, the realistic thing of the music and is the way I got past it. When I came home, I just thought about, man, when I come home, I'm going to throw a party with all my good friends that I grew up with, the ones that were left, and some of my new friends. So I had a big holiday thing, and I invited over 20, 30 friends, and we had a.
Last question for you. So out of all the busy you did that they were broken up, what was the best Christmas that you had?
In jail?
No, when you got out.
Because I had some good ones in jail. You make the best.
Yeah, of course.
What was the best one? When I had all my kids together. I had all 4 kids, and actually it was all 4 kids and my grandson.
Which case was that?
So this last one, they were all together again. My kids are all, now they're not kids anymore. So they were all together with me. They came over my house. I had my grandson. I had some good friends over. I had some cousins. And
why didn't I get invited?
And my father.
You don't invite me?
You couldn't have at that time. I think you had some paper too at that time, parole.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, but I had my father there too. It wasn't sick at the time, and I had them all together, and it took. So I think that was something that listen. I say it again. I'll say it again. My idea is always to try to save that next kid's life, not to suffer some of the things I did. People might be against what I'm saying. But if they have children, they wouldn't never want to see them in those solitary confinement cells, in those dungeons in Brazil, and not understanding how much freedom is worth. So no dollar bill could be on freedom.
And I think with that, that's a pretty good ending.
Thanks.
So stay clean, right?
That's my message. I says it's always going to be the same. I mean, you could be the toughest guy in the world, but emotional pain isn't physical pain.
And
you can ask Mike Tyson that, actually, who did. And I thought he was convicted wrongly, but so I'm a Mike Tyson guy. I like Mike Tyson.
Agree.
And he's a tough guy, but he'll tell you have those depressions and crying in jail, and he's a man's man. So if he can admit that and help kids, then I think most people, and some of the other things that happen in those jails while you're there and you have family members that pass away. And, my friend Eddie Hannon, and I got to say something else. Stevie Newell just passed away, and he was
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he was on my show before, and we had a long history together, back and forth, and we were friends, and then we were enemies, and then we were friends again, and we got a lot of respect for each other, and I was really sad to see him die young, and I give my condolences to his son Matt and his family. Yeah,
because it affects everybody.
Yeah.
On a light note, do you think Tyson will fight Holyfield?
Yeah, I think Tyson just enjoy his life and smoke his weed and CBD.
I think he's going to fight him.
I hope not. He doesn't need it. I mean, Holyfield, I know, is in a different situation. He might need it. I think if I was Tyson, I wouldn't do it. At this point, just go enjoy.
He said he was going to eat his kids.
Yeah, I know, but Tyson doesn't mean it anymore. Maybe at one time.
Man.
Tyson.
He's not smoking that weed anymore.
He's a good-hearted guy, Tyson. He can say anything he wants. Tyson's got a hard exterior, but he's got a good interior. And Bobby Ches, by the way, I hope he comes on the show. He's a good friend of mine, and he's friends with Tyson. And he's some champ, Bobby, also. So these are good-hearted guys. These are tough guys, not what everybody thinks. And very articulate guy, Bobby. So hopefully we bring him on next.
All right, great. So we left on a good note.
Yeah.
On the prison blues.
Yep.
All right, another great one, John. Thank you
Hey,
very much.
happy holidays, everybody.
Happy
Thanksgiving,
holidays.
Christmas.